Hello and welcome to Flight Sim Alaska. I'm Dave, the armchair bush pilot. For today's virtual flight sim tour of Alaska, we're going to explore the city of Valdez, nestled along Port Valdez, this body of water here, along the northeastern part of Prince William Sound, and that's what this is here. So strap in, get comfortable, hit that like button, and let's get this aircraft into the air. Okay, so here we are in Pioneer Field in Valdez, Alaska. This particular airport, just a point of interest, is not currently serviced by any major commercial airlines. So if you were to come here, it would be in your own aircraft. So before we get started, let's go ahead and get this aircraft fired up, shall we? Go ahead and do all the stuff we need to do. Battery. All right. Throttle in a little bit. Magnetos. Very good. Adjust our RPMs down just a wee bit. That'll do. All right, let's see here. Then I got a little bit of work to do with my trim. Calibrate my trim wheel. I think we're good there. All right, so let's turn on a couple more lights. Avionics stuff. All right, let's go ahead and get underway. I think I'm going to forego the ATC this trip. Seems like a bit of a pain in the butt. So we're just going to ignore that for now. So in the vanilla version of the flight simulator, which is to say really any version of it, this particular airport does not exist. If you fly over it, you can kind of see the textures of where it's supposed to be, but if you want to fly out of here, you're either going to have to create your own mod, or you'll have to get a hold of mine somehow. And so I did create this airport myself using the software development kit. It's not really that hard to do. Some great YouTube videos out there on how to do that. I want to say one is Benny Boy, step by step, very, very cool. But I will say this particular airport is goofed up a little bit. This taxiway we're on right now towards runway 24 is meant to be straight, and it's not. And part of that has to do with the fact that there's this weird stitching thing in the terrain, and so I kind of had to cheat a little bit to line things up and sort of cover up the imagery there. So I think that's enough about the airport and the simulator. So let's talk about Valdez, shall we? So one thing that you may sort of be wondering about right now is how it's spelled Valdez and pronounced Valdez. And the short answer is I don't frickin' know. What I do know is that it was named in 1790 for the Spanish Navy Minister Antonio Valdez y Fernandez Bazan. I'm guessing that's how it's pronounced. The port was kind of a minor port for a long time until it was linked to Fairbanks by road in 1899, and it's been kind of an important port ever since, but it really didn't become the valuable critical infrastructure of the state until the completion of the Trans-Alaska Pipeline in 1979. Now, Valdez is the terminus of the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, and if you are not familiar with that particular pipeline, the Trans-Alaska Pipeline runs 800 miles from Alaska's North Slope down to Valdez here, and the North Slope being Prudhoe Bay, giant oil field out there. And that pipeline is a 48-inch diameter pipeline that runs both above and below ground. So there are points where you can actually see it above ground. And it's pretty neat, very distinctive. So we are now approaching downtown Valdez. It's off to our right here. This is created in 1965, I suppose, after the 1964 Good Friday earthquake, which was a 9.2 magnitude earthquake that happened just on the other side of these Valdez Narrows here in Prince William Sound, and it sent a tsunami up this Port Valdez here, that's this body of water, to wipe out what was the original town site off my left wingtip there. These days, the port there are kind of two ports. There's sort of a port over here, which I've never been to Valdez, so I'm not 100% sure where it is, but you can kind of see weird ghost textures and stuff if you were to fly over. Now, south of here, we have the oil terminal, and that's where the giant oil tankers will leave Valdez here, this calm port, into Prince William Sound there, and then down part south for refinement. Now, in 1989, the Exxon Valdez tanker, captained by Joe Hazelwood, came out here around through the Valdez Narrows there, and then ran aground on Bly Reef, spilling millions of gallons of crude oil into Prince William Sound and absolutely devastating the ecosystem there. These effects are being felt to this day. In fact, just this year, a colleague and I completed a paper on some of the lingering effects to the local Alaska Native groups, and the title of the paper really had to do with a recovery of a subsistence way of life, and so we explored that subsistence, which is to say living off the land, those patterns, and tried to understand why we're observing changes even after the recovery. And I would say that we didn't find that the oil spill had lingering effects on those folks as much as it exacerbated what happened. So I'll talk about that more when we actually do Prince William Sound. But here's that oil terminal here. This is the economic, this is really the economic lifeline of the state of Alaska right here. This is where it really, the rubber hits the road. We get the oil comes down here, and this is where it goes off to get sold. Very, very, very important. So now we are facing basically east here, and we're looking up the low river towards Thompson Pass, and Thompson Pass is where the road goes, and that road, as I said, leads into the interior that was created in the 1890s, and that'll lead to Fairbanks or to Anchorage or to parts east, what have you. So this is road connected. You can drive here. I will say, as I've said so many times in this flight simulator on my channel here, these rivers are not right. They're just way full of water. These should just be braided channels of water with mostly sandbanks. And if you do fly over here in the simulator yourself, you'll find that that there are these huge bluffs all through here, and that's just not accurate at all. These are just the river's more or less flat all the way up into Thompson Pass here. And Thompson Pass will bring you into, like I said, the southern interior and the Copper Basin, and we're going to do that at some point in this channel, just not maybe in the near future. So now we are passing over Valdez Glacier River. Again, this should be a narrow band or braid of waterways and mostly sandbanks. That's what you would see if you're driving over the Richardson Highway here and came across that bridge. And that's what this is, the Richardson Highway. And we are heading towards Valdez Glacier Lake and then Valdez Glacier. I thought maybe we'd go ahead and take a little look up Valdez Glacier there. It's really pretty, and I did do a lot of work to try to clean up this scenery. I lowered this Robe Lake here. I lowered that down so it doesn't look ridiculous. I actually lowered some of the lakes up in those valleys there, and then I fixed the lake right here. So if you were to fly around in the simulator, and you would find a much less, I guess, polished landscape. Now that all said, these Chugach Mountains here are the textures are so they're so wonderful and true to life that it's a lot of fun to fly up in here. The one thing I will say, and I've said this repeatedly, and you'll hear me say it forever and ever, is this is just not as jagged or as rugged as what you'd really expect. These peaks are somewhat subdued all throughout here, and so if you were to come drive up in here again, which is something you could do, this would be so much more spectacular. So again, here we're flying towards that Valdez Glacier Lake right here. So a little bit of cool trivia here. If you're a fan of Star Trek The Next Generation, the Commander William Riker, that ruggedly handsome guy, was said to have grown up here in Valdez. That's his backstory in Star Trek. So if you're ever thought about old William Riker, this is where he is said to said to have grown up. I think that's kind of fun and interesting, and I sort of wonder if the writers of Star Trek had ever even been to Valdez. So here we are flying over. You can kind of see these little icebergs in the water here, and this is meant to be snowpack from the spring. The imagery is reasonably well represented. All right, so here we are flying over Valdez Glacier now, and this just looks really pretty fabulous, I think, in the simulator, honestly. This side of the mountain range just doesn't look super awesome, I don't think. This side, I feel like, looks real good, and the glacier looks pretty good here too. Oh man, this looks really nice. Look at this. It's very authentic feeling to me, even if it is textures aren't super duper great. But look at that. That's remarkable. You could imagine trying to fly up in here what this must look like and how rugged these things are. This mountain here that's been carved out by the glacier. It's just spectacular, I think. So I honestly don't know where this glacier would lead us to if we were to keep going.
500.
But I think it's I think this is all pretty remarkable. In any case, I think at this point we'll go ahead and spin back around to old City of Old Valdez there, and yeah, if you enjoyed this video, leave me a like. Otherwise, if you're interested in some more Alaska content, Microsoft Flight Simulator, hit that subscribe button and maybe hit notify so you don't miss any content. Otherwise, thank you so very much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. I'm having a great time. And I'll catch you in the next video.